You're watching the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich. Welcome back to episode Chipchura of the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast. On today's episode, we have a few things to talk about, including potential rants coming from Mr. Matthew over there. I'm gonna get out of the way real quick here. I know we just started up the episode and you're going, why is he already doing the begging? But I'm gonna beg real quick. If you could, please give us a like, a follow, a subscription on whatever listening platform you're listening to us on. I know I sound different, and I'm excited. For all the audio listeners, I finally set up that microphone I talked about probably 10 weeks ago. I have finally put it up. I had a Yeti microphone sitting in my closet for about 3 years, but my wife and I used to game in the same room. You've probably seen in previous episodes. We are no longer in the same room. We have our own individual offices, so that means I can finally put up the microphone. But I needed an arm because I wanted it close. I wanted it to sound really good. So I finally caved in and bought the arm.
I like it. I'm just gonna beg you to get it a little bit farther away from your mouth, so that way you don't make everyone just kind of get distracted by your mesmerizing voice. But Hi, I would like to welcome all of our phenomenal listeners, primarily from Austria and Canada. Thank you. I didn't know Austria was a real place. That's a joke. That's a joke.
That's oh goodness, who was Austrian on our team? Grabner, right? Grabner was Austrian.
Grabs was?
I think so. I think he's Austrian.
All I know is that
I know.
I've only heard of it in like history class, and I'm like, hey, how many countries seemingly like go away, come back, rebranded? Czechia, I'm looking at you.
Austria has been the top G. No, I'm just kidding. they've been there the whole time. I think they haven't changed their name in a very long time. Although I think their borders have changed quite a bit.
I know a lot of borders change constantly, and all I know is that I'm not very good at keeping up with it because, as you can hear from my very annoying voice, I am American, so we only know what goes on in America.
Oh, God.
Only in America.
See, I love history, so I'm all for the history buff. Oh, I should clarify 1900s history. I am too much of a layman when it comes to the older stuff.
Bro, I love Assassin's Creed, because I get to go walk around ancient cities I will never get to walk around in.
Did you see the update about that? I know we're a hockey
Mirage
podcast.
Is a thing?
That Mirage is a thing? Sorry, I was too busy self-reflecting.
All right. So we'll get to the hockey in a minute. If you're here for the hockey, skip ahead a few minutes. But Mirage is apparently supposed to be like a more like old school style game. It's going to follow Basim. He was one of the side characters in Valhalla, and I'm so cautiously optimistic, but I don't trust Ubisoft. And then also allegedly, as part of like a season pass, we're getting an AC1 remake. And if a game in the series needed it, it's AC1, and I'm so like cautiously hyped. I hate it.
Yeah, I remember AC1 when I was a kid, and it was so much fun. But at the same time, when I go back and I think about it, holy crap, did the story suck. Like, go here, kill this guy. Go here, kill this guy. And it was cool, for a kid. It was revolutionary, that gameplay. The stealthing and everything. But then you get to like, what is it? You kill like number 9, and it's a girl, and then you just like have no clue where you're going after that. You don't kill her, right? You take her helmet off, and then all of a sudden it's a girl, and you're like, wait a minute, what? And you
gotta like follow her to like a battlefield, and then it turns out that spoilers for a game in 2007, that the guy that was sending you to kill everyone was actually the main bad guy. And
yeah,
I don't know, I kind of liked the twist, but it was super formulaic, and you only got to explore like a part of the city each time you'd visit it. And I get what they're going for, and I really love how they just kind of built on that and more freedom as the series went along. So it's just kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that game is so rough around the edges, but I still love so much about it. Like, it deserves to be, like, if anything needs a remake, not just a remaster. If they just remaster it, fine, but at least tweak the combat and whatnot. But if anything actually needs a modernization, it is that game. And I'm excited at the prospect of a new generation of gamers getting to play it and play it, like, in a better form. Yeah. But that's That's video games.
And that's that. Do you got any personal things that you want to talk about? Any personal news that you got into this past week, real quick?
Two things. One's kind of morbid, so I'll try to get past that as quickly as possible. So we brought Todd's ashes home a couple of days ago, and I had this really weird dream that night where it's like I was in a game store that also was a house for some reason. It doesn't really matter. And I just hear, some jingling coming towards me, and it was Todd, and I got to see him. He was all excited, all happy. I was petting him. And then almost as if it was like a cruel joke, like you see a camera like pull back, and I'm petting air. And like I woke up, and that was like a really terrible feeling. But then as I kind of like went throughout the rest of my day, I went to work, and I'm like, you know what? I'm honestly just like really freaking happy. Like like money can't buy this, and this kind of the only reason I really want to mention this here is that I felt like I got the opportunity to see like my dog happy again, like running around that last time, and I'm like, you know what? Like I could scour the earth for dogs that look like him, might even act like him. You couldn't buy that. And I'm like,
nope.
Even though it kind of sucked to wake up from like all the other dogs that jumped off the bed and they were doing whatever the hell else they were doing at 6 or 5 in the morning. But I'm like, you know what? At least I got that, and I'm like, I very positive outlook on a potentially really dark dark situation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are the memories that you want. Like you always want to cherish an animal. That's always it's nice. It's nice to kind of get those memories coming back, percolating and whatnot, things that you did with them.
Yeah, especially now, it's like it makes it so much easier to only remember the good stuff. So it's like it makes it easier to like be happy when you're thinking about Todd, as opposed to like, oh, the last thing I remember was we're in the vet. So it's like I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then just to go ahead and go past that, since that got a little down, but hopefully it's a little like bittersweet on that. I went to a card shop. I remember that same card shop I mentioned to you like a couple weeks ago because I was bored.
The Blue Eyes Dragon shop.
Yeah, Blue Eyes Dragon shop that I bought him out of all the Blue Eyes except for the $180 one because even I don't got that kind of money. So I'm walking around looking for some commons. I'm always looking for stupid decks to build that are never going to win me anything. And I'm walking past this little counter, and I just see out of the corner of my eye. You're probably seeing it here. And I'm a little terrified to get up and get it. Don't fling it out. So I just saw the sleeve on this jersey, and I'm never going to not be able to recognize this jersey. I asked him about it. Immediately, he puts it up on the counter, and I recognize the Peter Mueller signature right here. I have no idea if that's even going to show up on camera, but there's Peter Mueller, I think Victor Tikhonov.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
Bodker, JR up here. I think that's Demo. So I'm sitting there, I'm just listing off names, and I'm like, oh yeah, I recognize all those guys, and I'm like, and on Darren Pang's also on it. So I'm like, look, I've met these guys enough. I've seen Peter Mueller sign autographs enough. They're probably all real. Mm-hmm. No one's going to fake a Darren Pang autograph. No offense, love Panger. I don't see anyone faking that. The jersey looks authentic. I'm like, how much? Guy comes in, and he had like a storage unit, a bunch of stuff he didn't want, so he sold it cheap. Dude offered $40. Oh. $40 for this great condition. This is a jersey they were wearing the first season I was watching them. All these autographs, a couple stains at the bottom, but it's $40. Beggars can't be choosers. Anywhere else, I'm paying like $120 or something because people throw prices up stupid high sometimes. So I'm like,
yeah,
that was probably like one of the coolest parts of the week is I got an autographed like jersey from my era of the Coyotes with their weird little stripes. Yeah. Do something like this again, please.
No.
Just
please. No. I'm so tired.
I know you're all Kachina only.
The thing is I'm all for a New Jersey that is unique. See, the problem is that when they changed over that was because of Gretzky. He wanted New Jerseys when he came in. So the marketing team went, okay, the Kachina, a little too aggressively unique, right? Like this is when you talk about when this jersey came out, everybody despised it. Now people go back and go, wow, that was incredibly unique. I really like it. And you see, I mean, I think there's a few places that have just done like home and away jersey ratings for the fans, and like the Kachina is like number 2 or number 3 in those lists, and there's a reason why. It's because it's incredibly unique. But when we moved away from that, the marketing team went, all right, too aggressive, too unique. Let's go back to more of a conservative kind of thing. Go back to something that we like and look at. And that's when they kind of took a look at like your original 6 teams, kind of like Detroit or somebody like that, and tried to kind of more mimic that style with the logo, with the font, with like how everything looks. And I am very anti-corporate. Okay, I'm not as far down the rabbit hole as you, Mr. Libertarian over there, but I'm anti-corporate. I'm all for the unique, crazy stuff. The fox dog, you know, all
the flying fox.
The flying fox. I'm all for that crazy stuff. Giving it a shot, and yeah. I know we're getting reverse retros potentially this year as well, and I hope that they do something fun. They better do the flying fox. That would be really cool.
Before we kick it over to you, I just want your opinion on this. Did you see the Oilers are bringing back the McFarlane Gearhead logo? Like I effing love that logo. Like from a kid playing on NHL 06, I always thought that was a great. I hate that they're making the oil drop orange. I think that almost ruins the look of it. That personal preference. If you like it, you like it. But like, I'm so hyped they're bringing that logo and that jersey design back. I'm gonna buy it like hardcore.
I will say it looks really good. I'm all for teams being unique. Like I love the uniqueness, and I hope that we see more of that. You know, if we're talking about like criticisms of the league, more uniqueness. That's something that we definitely need. Something to sell each individual team. Don't just, you know, wash it and sterilize it so that it's like a corporate look and everybody has a corporate look. Like, let's all make unique stuff. Let's all make state unique stuff. I think that would be really cool.
Oh, sanitized corporate look like the Golden Knights logo?
Well, considering they're called the Golden Knights and it's a warrior helmet, I would say yes. I get it. It's a V, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's not a knight helmet. Knights don't wear those helmets.
I feel so dumb. I feel so effing dumb because I didn't know there was a V in the logo for like 3 years. Because I was like, it's a helmet, cool. No more thought put into it because it's like, it's a helmet, it makes sense. Yeah. Golden Knight, sure. It's like, oh yeah, there's a V in the logo. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed it really quickly. And I get that, like, it is unique in that sense. It just, you know, it's like being the Coyotes and then having, like, a fish head on my jersey. Like, oh, well, they're both animals. It's like, but they're not knights. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they're two completely different things. It's like saying,
what did you do this week?
Okay, so oh, goodness, I worked. Big surprise.
You do that a lot, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. But when I worked, I got to go up to Sedona yesterday and film like a so we're trying to get more people content. For people that don't know, I do cinematography, photography, drone pilot, a lot of like the advertising side of stuff. So we do a bunch of car ads and things like that, and we're trying to get more people content because it's something that we just don't do a lot of, and we want to get kind of back into the wedding industry and the wedding side of it because it's a lot of fun. And so it's kind of difficult getting your foot in the door. And there's these things that you know, photographers and everything set up where essentially you pay to go and they'll have models in like staging areas. And it's almost like speed dating where you move around to each booth. And you'll have like 4 or 5 photographers in a group. So there's like 4 or 5 people. We're all like kind of fighting for a shot with these models as they're modeling. And we were lucky enough to go and do that in Sedona. And it was a lot of fun. And actually, all the people in our group, I've heard horror stories that some people can be real nasty at those events and be very bossy. But for the most part, it was a lot of fun. There was one girl that was a little bossy. She kind of like had her idea of her shot and she wanted to get it. But you know, we're free flowing people, so we're all open for, you know, leeching in that sense. But that was a lot of fun. That was kind of the highlight of my week. I don't really think I bought Graveyard Keeper because I'm a loser who likes top-down simulators or whatever you call them. Like they're games that like you kind of just go and do your own thing in like a single player. It's like Stardew Valley, if you've ever heard of Stardew Valley, except with corpses. You're a graveyard keeper and you tend the corpses and then you put them in the graveyard. And yeah, anyways, I know everybody's like, wow, that's really incredibly boring. I know. Let's see, what else? Nothing else really. I am going to get a massage after this with my wife. We're having a couples massage. We're finally using up our tickets. So not tickets, but our what are they called? Like when you have a card and you can go and do something with it. Gift card.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just call it a gift card. What is that thing that people give you with a card? And
what is
like
that
stuff on
card
it?
that people gift you and you get like $50 to go to wherever?
Yeah, a gift card. We got gift cards to 2 massage places when we got married in December, and we're finally using the second one. So we're like, we need to use this. We need to use this, and so we finally set it up, and we are going to do that shortly after this episode. So that'll be nice.
I guess what you're telling me is curse as much as possible to make the editing job take super long.
No.
So that way I can then build up all this stress and tension that will flow away.
Absolutely not.
Anyway, you know what? No one cares about us. The podcast starts now. Whatever timestamp this is. Welcome to the podcast. Kyle Chipchura. You know what? Me and my buddy always had a joke growing up. It was like, he really should make like tortilla chips and like they're chip churros or sell churros and call them chip churros. I think there's a lot of business opportunity there.
It's a good joke.
Mr. Kyle Chipchura.
I don't know how you make it taste good. Like, have you ever been to the place called Enchiladas here?
No, sir.
No? Okay, so that's like just slightly north of the main city of Phoenix. And they have these chips that are like unreal. They're like the basic like hard chips, right? That are like really hard. They're like corn based. They have like flour based chips where it's like a tortilla that they cut into a chip, and then you could eat it. And oh my god, they're like the best chips I've ever had. And I was thinking, like, you could do like something like that, and then maybe get like churro flavors. So you could get like chips, and then you could put like cinnamon and like honey and like all the stuff that goes on churros, but like on the chips. So it's a chip churro.
Oh my god. Wow. I was even more basic. I've had over a decade to think about this, and it's just been either just selling, tortilla chips, calling them chip churros, or selling churros and calling them chip churros. And you're like, oh, I hear that. I can combine the two. How do you make the... My god. Is this why? Is this why AZ Sports Guy is a nobody? Is this why I've been doing this for half a decade and no one knows who I am?
I'll tell you something. The ADHD in my brain makes me come up with the most crazy stuff. So don't worry. It's like if you've ever watched Legend of Korra, I'm like that one guy, the inventor in the show. I don't know if you've ever watched it. It's all right. People are gonna get the reference, but for the 2 of you that do, give me the nod. You're like, yep, that one crazy guy. I don't remember his name. He's like...
It would have worked better if you would have, translated it to, Blue Hedgehog or card games or something, because I'm not a cultured individual.
Yeah, it's all right. All right, well, let's stop with the non-hockey talk. No, we're a hockey podcast, and they're not even talking about hockey. This is BS. I'm out.
Hockey doesn't belong in Arizona, and they're proof of it.
I'm seeing you later. Look at these two buffoons. They're not talking about the Leafs. They're talking about their personal stuff. What is this?
We got way too distracted. At least we got it out of the way early.
Yes, we did.
Is there anything Coyotes related specifically you want to focus on before we get into this general observation and concern that I've had so far?
So I am curious. I'm gonna name off a few names here. I'm gonna name off all the people that are currently under contract but will become free agents in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
I want just a quick, maybe brief summary, but I just want a quick yes or no of, do we have them stay on the team, or are they trade deadline trades?
All right, let's do this.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to just go from top to bottom on cap friendly, so I know people are going to be like, yeah, absolutely he's not, or absolutely he is. I know. Just bear with me here, okay? All right, so first one.
With you.
I know. These nobodies don't know what they're talking about. So we want to talk about things that don't talk about. This is the ADHD kicking back in. When Audie was on the show and he's like, "Do you guys not know what McJesus is?" I'm like, "Audie, don't you dare insult us like that." I'm like, I get it. You haven't seen very many Coyotes fans, but yes, I do. I know who McJesus is. Okay. I also know who Collar McBroken is. Okay. I know all the memes. Okay. Anyways, back to the list. So first one on the list is going to be Andrew Ladd. He is going into his final season with $5.5 million on the cap. He will become a UFA. He is 36 years of age.
How many retainment slots do we have? It's 3 active, right?
Yeah, we have 2 because of Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Got it. All right, so it's 3 total, but we have 2 that are available. Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Ladd, he was ridiculously mediocre when he played last year. I don't see there being interest, for trade deadline fodder, but I also don't see interest of re-signing him, so he's probably just gone in free agency.
Okay. I know he's not got 1 year left, but I'm going to toss him in here too, just because he's a new acquisition. Zach Cassian, 2 years left, $3.2 million, 31 years of age.
Oh, he's gone either deadline or off season next year because they needed to get rid of the money. That's why he comes to Arizona. Another team, once they can free up money, if they need that bottom 6 kind of guy, 4th line grinder, they'll be calling. We can make it even more affordable with a retainment slot. That's probably going to cost more because we could probably turn any of these other names. Let's just say somebody wanted, let's say Ladd has 15 goals, right? Oh, yeah. Hey, if we take half of that, we can probably get a first-round asset and something else, just depending on, just for an example. Yeah. So, they might even, be a little more stingy about 50% retaining that one because, they wouldn't be able to maximize value. But regardless, they're going to find a way to move that before that contract expires because there's need for his position, his play style in the league, especially on playoff teams. You get a guy that's injured, that's in your bottom 6. Go ahead and grab Cassian, especially if it's LTIR. It makes it even easier to move without any retainment.
I agree. Next up on the list is going to be Nick Ritchie, 26 years of age, $2.5 million. What are your thoughts?
Gone at the deadline. I love Ritchie. I have a feeling because he came here, he was producing pretty well. I think he's going to kind of continue that, and his offensive game is going to get back to where it should be overall, and he's going to increase his value. I don't know why I said value like that. Wow, I sound like I'm 12. He's going to increase his value, and then probably look at the Coyotes and say, look, I'm just not interested in re-signing because I want to go compete. He's, 26, you said? He's
yes.
Mid-20s. So he's probably at the point of his career where he wouldn't want to be part of the rebuild voluntarily, and unless the Coyotes are willing to overpay, I just don't see him accepting a contract, so he's probably gone at the deadline.
Next one is going to be a $1 million man who just signed. I'm surprised they gave him over $1 million. He did not receive league minimum, which is a shock to me, which is Christian Fischer at $1.1 million. He will be an RFA, so he is cost-controlled after this year at 25 years of age. I'm going to chip in real quick before you give your opinions because I have to preface it my homeboy Fischer since I know there will be slander coming your way. I love Fischer as a locker room guy, and I do love him as a person off the ice. Now, with that being said, you can be critical of his on-ice production.
I remember after he showed up at the town hall meeting, I'm not allowed to talk. I'm not allowed to say he sucks anymore. I can criticize, but I can't say he sucks. So what I'm going to say is I do not think Christian Fischer provides much value to the team in terms of actual hockey function, i.e. production, i.e. fundamentals of hey, he can go out there and shut guys down defensively, or he can go out there and create a play. But you always need your biz types. On top of that, he seems to be ridiculously close with Kells and Schmaltzy, and those are guys that are going to be around for a while. So I
think
if they were going to trade him, it would have been years ago. And if they wanted to get rid of him, they would have just never re-signed him. They've had 2 opportunities. He's going to be here until either he decides otherwise or he, knock on wood, isn't able to play.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we see from the coach and all what the coach says, I think the coach loves him, which is like a good thing. Like, right, if the coach loves you, then you can almost guarantee that you'll at least be on the team. You're not going to be in the minor leagues. I don't know if he'll play every 82 games, obviously. I doubt it, barring injury. But I'm just talking about healthy scratches. Yeah, I wish him the best of luck. And God, I wish you would go back to driving the net, Mr. Fisher. Because holy crap, you were so much fun to watch when you drove the net. But it is what it is. So
I'll take his physicality because he's really good with the grinding style. But if he just, like you said, crashes the net, if he does a lot more screening, does a lot more net front battles, his not only with his offensive production in general go up, you're going to get a puck off the skate, you're going to be able to tip one in, you're going to be able to get it, flick it off to a teammate. So let's say it's the middle of a line change, he gets it in front of the net, he just kind of sees Keller streaking down and just shoots it over to him. It's like he can get some points that way, and I want to see more of that than just correct. Feel free to add it into the comments here, but just from my perspective, I just kind of see him like the Mike York type. It just kind of skates up and down the ice, except for Fisher also hits, and it's also really good off the ice. So that's probably the main reason why he's here.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest assets to him is just how well he works right off the ice with everybody, bringing them together, making jokes, making everybody have a good time. That's really important for a team. A lot of GMs don't recognize stuff like that. They just recognize the statistical numbers, and they don't look at how important those types of guys are. Keeping guys loose and joking and having a good time. That's really important. That's where you cultivate magic. Next is going to be Nick Bjugstad. He was just signed this offseason at $900,000. He's 30 years of age. He potentially will play center, but who knows? We shall see. Opinions?
He'll be gone at the deadline. He's one of the concept we've been talking about for a while of veterans that might not be getting the offers they want, or they want that one last contract, or anything along those lines coming to Arizona because it's an NHL job and we can offer more minutes than other places, and then you also have a bit of control of, hey, I want to go to a playoff team at the deadline. So at the very least, it gives the veterans a little more control and not having to gamble as much in the offseason. You can actually see how the season is progressing and how teams are playing and what their actual needs are. So he's a guy that I expected just came in because it was a consistent roster spot and a good amount of minutes for him. He'll probably be gone at the deadline. Depending on how he plays, we'll get anywhere between a second to a fourth or fifth for him.
Okay. Next up is going to be Jack McBain at 22 years of age. He's currently signed for $883,000. He's an RFA after this season.
How many more RFA years? 2 more, right? Because he's 23.
I believe it's either 2 or 1. I think college, when you come out of college and you sign that 2-year deal, I think that you only get 1 RFA and then you go straight to UFA after that. I don't know. There's some weird stuff. There's some tomfoolery with college contracts. But at the very least,
it also does make some sense because you're a little further along in development, a little higher up in age. I get it. I really want him because look with how well I've seen him play. Just again, rookie camp, his mindset, a couple quotes I've seen this offseason, how hard he's been working. I think he hits 20 goals this year. I would not be surprised if he hit 20 goals, and I would be kind of shocked if he came out and just didn't produce.
Yeah.
But it's really weird because has he bought into into the rebuild, or is he one of the guys that hey, I can get ice time here and use this essentially as a development / tryout for a real team, quote unquote.
Yeah.
He seems like the kind of guy that just wants a role on a team. I don't really think like specifically what team really mattered all that much to him. He just wanted to go somewhere where he could have the best likelihood of fitting in.
Yeah.
So if everything goes right, I see him at least signing a 1-year extension. But the problem is so many off-ice things that I have literally no idea would determine whether or not it turns into anything longer. So I'll say at the very least, he comes out, has a good year, gets a 1-year extension, and past that, I have no idea.
All right, next guy, a guy who I think might end up being his line mate, who also came here at the final trade deadline, and that would be Nathan Smith. He's a guy who I don't feel like is getting enough recognition this offseason. I think a lot of, like you specifically, and quite a few people have talked about Jack McBain, and big body, looks ready. We saw that in the rookie camp, but a guy who I think is quietly sitting there, not a lot of hype around his name, which might be a good thing for him. Might go under the radar and surprise some few people. He is 23 years of age. And he is also signed for the exact same contract at $883,000 RFA after the season.
I have positive feelings about him. It's just also like Jack McBain's a little more fresh in my mind because I was literally right there, like watching. And on top of that, like when guys are more vocal or you can see more stuff coming out about him, like it's just it's a little easier to jump on it. But no, Smith is still a really good young kid. It's weird to refer to a 23-year-old as a young kid, but
young kid, yeah.
I see with the amount of assets they're bringing in, I have this weird. It's not even a gut feeling, just this little nagging thought. So I'll just go ahead and just share it. I feel like one of the two, McBain or Smith, will not be here next year, and I feel like whichever one plays better is the one that's going to get the contract longer term. And I have that gut feeling towards McBain. So I'll just say that Smith has a solid year because he's a good player. Nothing negative to say about him. Mm-hmm. And either gets traded at the deadline or there is some sort of conflict in terms of like what role he's going to fit in when it comes to the contract negotiations. So probably gets an extension for a sign-and-trade type deal or his RFA rights traded away in the offseason.
Fair enough. My opinions, I'm gonna wear my Stan hat here. If you don't know what that is, a Stan is somebody who's a big supporter of something. It could be anything. I'm gonna stand it up here and say I think Nathan Smith might crack the top 6. I liked the way he looked at the end of the season. I think that there's still a lot of growing pains to understand the difference between college and NHL hockey. I think he'll come in and he might even crack top 6. I liked the way he was skating last year. I thought he made a few mistakes where he got ran over because he's holding the puck a little too long. But that comes with timing. That comes with playing a few more reps in the NHL, getting NHL games under your belt. But he reminded me a lot of a player who can really control a game when the puck is on his stick. I'm not making this clarification. I don't think he's as good. I'm just saying the way he plays, the style, reminded me a lot of how Nathan MacKinnon plays, where he has the puck and he just wants to drive. Whether that's making a good pass across the ice to a cross crease, or he drives all the way in, gets into a tight area and shoots and scores. I'm just saying that style, he's not nearly as big, he's not nearly as skillful, but I think that style is something that he did pretty well at the what was it, 9 games that he played or whatever. I think if he continues to improve himself like that, he could see himself playing up in the lineup.
So you're saying 8-year contract, 9.2 a year.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark.
No movement clause, full no move.
Yeah.
I definitely hope so, because if we can find, like, if they both hit a different gear this year, if we can have McBain and Smith either rounding out the top 6 or at the very least anchoring the top 9, like, you might even be able to just, even if Hayton plays well this year, flip him and they just have other prospects come in like behind him. So I don't know. I feel like no matter what, it's setting us up for some pretty good asset management. But yeah, I definitely hope the best for him because he's a really good young player.
Yeah. So just to give a quick because I know people go top 6, you're crazy. But so how I'd project it out, it'd be Keller, Boyd, Schmaltz, because that line was really good until Boyd. Mm-hmm. If he ever drops off, I mean, I didn't expect him to be as consistent as he did, but he was able to unlock the offense for those two. And if that's magic, then you keep that. Like you keep that. As for the second line, this is where I was thinking he could slot in, which is going to be I know that the center is usually the apex on the line combos, but I really do believe the second line is going to be Lawson Krause's line. With that contract, with that term, with that investment that they put into him, I think that second line, just like how the second line was Shane Doan's line, at the end of his career, I think that second line is going to be the Lawson Krause line. So whatever his line mates are, we'll see. But I think that it'll probably be Barrett Hayden, Krauser, and then Nathan Smith on that line. And then that frees you up to McBain being on the third line, and you have a big boy third line. Because some names on this list that are big boys. You got Bugstad now, who is a big boy. You got Cassian, who's a big boy. You got Richie, who's a big boy. And Fish sniffing around there too. So that is my opinions on the line combos, but let's continue on. Did you have anything else to say about Nathan Smith, or?
Nope, just good young player. Hopefully both him and McBain play well.
Okay. I'm going to ignore this one just because he's not an everyday NHLer yet. But that on Cap Friendly, they do have Michael Carcone on this list. Mm-hmm. Kind of been a career AHL, NHL guy. But I feel
like last year almost broke him out. Because the year before in Tucson, I think I was just almost onto the map. I don't know if it's just because I also pay attention to Tucson or because he actually just elevated his game a little bit. But especially with how well he played to end last season, I honestly would think he's on your third line with Richie and McBain if it works out that way. And you have Bugstad, Fisher, and Cassian or whoever else you want on the fourth line, because Carcone, even with the minimal minutes or the limited minutes, I still thought played well. So I'll just go ahead and just say he probably either solidifies a spot on the NHL roster and just keeps extending 1 or 2 years at a time, mm-hmm. or Matthias Michelli, someone else from Tucson, busts it and just forces their way into the lineup, and then Carcone is hey, you had a good couple of years with us, but you probably either work better in the AHL or just going somewhere else.
Yeah. There's just to name a few who will fight for that Carcone spot. You have Carcone, Michelli, Liam Kirk, Jan Yannick, Ben McCartney. We signed Lauren Dauphin. Don't think he'll be there.
Love Dauphin's back.
Lauren Dauphin's there. The other guy who we picked up from, I think it was the Czechia League. That was Milos Kelemen, I think is his name. He'll be probably trying to sniff around there. He's a young player too at 23. So there's quite a bit of competition for that getting into the NHL, which is good because it's good to give a bar that these guys got to fight for instead of just giving a roster spot to people.
Yep. Got to make them earn it because you want to build that culture.
Yep. And last one, but I'm not going to also put him on the list. Barrett Hayden hasn't signed yet. He is an RFA. I don't know. Do you really want to talk about him? I don't think. I think we'll get a multi-year deal, and then we'll probably, if he's going to lose his time here, he'll have to play himself out this year. So I don't think it's really fair to make that criticism yet. And we'll have to see and revisit next year because I still think he has one more year of good graces, and to see if he can take that next step and not get injured. So
I think there's a small 30-second thought to be had that I think could be interesting. Is it's just with how long this keeps taking, and again how there's still been no real leaks or reporting or movement from anyone like substantial reporting on it. Even like the nobodies, like even the people like us don't really have any news or any rumblings, even on like Reddit or something. It's entirely possible that, like I've kind of been alluding to for a couple of weeks, that there could be something like maybe BA isn't interested in keeping him on because it wasn't one of his prospects. It's a ridiculously common thing. There could be some sort of, lack of a better term, like attitude thing, not like Hayton's, like acting like Shane Wright or anything, but there could be a BA's didn't see exactly what he wanted, like as part of the core identity of the team, so maybe won't, like isn't offering what Hayton wants. It's entirely possible like Hayton could not feel like he's getting the fair shake here and want a change of scenery, or it could just be literally there's just been no conversation and no one's felt like picking up the phone. So I feel like the longer this keeps taking it, if there's no contract, even a 1 year by training camp, we have to at least like consider the possibilities that there could be something going on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's never good to see a RFA with no arbitration rights continue without a contract, as close as we are heading into training camp. I think that is never a good sign. I hope that they figure it out. Obviously, hockey is a business. The NHL is a business. So you do business things. It's not all touchy-feely, feel-good moments. And hopefully they get that figured out. If not, I would not be surprised, like you're saying, to a sign and trade if that would be the next option. All right, let's head to defensemen. So I think everybody knows my opinions on the sign, but I know that Jacob Chychrun is on this list as somebody who may get traded at the deadline. I don't think we need to go too much into detail. I think we've covered Chychrun more than enough.
I'll give my little TLDR. Great player. Genuinely hope that there's a way they can like get him to buy into the rebuild so we can give him the C and move on, and all of this just goes behind us.
Yeah.
But if there is, obviously, because I acknowledge the possibility, and I'll go ahead and just keep acknowledging it here with the whole trading Dvorak thing, with how close they were, that could have either started, tensions, or it could have like exacerbated them because we're going into it would be his second rebuild as a Coyote, and kind of just right as the Coyotes were getting good, and him being so competitive and wanting to win is just, it comes down to if they can convince him to buy in, we just move on, give him his C, it's all good. If not, find the best possible deal. This deadline, in my opinion, is the deadline, because then you lose an additional controllable year. The contract, while being team friendly, it just looks a little less like stable. So it's like, look, you have to do it this trade deadline, or the relationship has to be completely fine and he's buying in and we're like moving forward.
Yeah, agreed. Next up is going to be Shane Gostisbehere at $4.5 million. He is 29 years of age.
I won't even make you waste the breath.
I think that he will play his way out of the Arizona Coyotes in a good way. I think he likes it here.
Last year. How good he played.
Yeah, I think he likes it here. I think that he is genuinely a good person, and I do like him on the team. And if for some reason he's like, no, I want to stay here, you go, tough toenails, go win a Stanley Cup, and then come back to us in the UFA year.
Yeah, literally,
really
just do
like
the
him.
Anton Vermette thing.
Yeah,
honestly, like, hey, we'll have a contract waiting for you. Control the term. Don't be stupid with it. But be like, hey, we have cap space right now. Here's a blank check for, like, let's say a 2-year, whatever. Like, keep the term manageable.
Yep.
But hey, if you want to come back, we'll trade you. Pick a team you want to go to, and then we'll just sign you right back whenever you're available, because Ghost already played his way out. Love Ghost. I don't have a single negative thing to say about that man. What was it? You said it was a 50-point season last year. The numbers don't
I think so, yeah.
that much
it was 50
for
something.
a lot of these guys. Better than every single defenseman on Philly that they traded assets to get rid of him. Like, no, he just... Him and Louis Eriksson are kind of like the poster children for, dude, you were in a terrible situation going to a terrible team. Oh, your NHL career could be over. And they're like, no, I'm going to keep my head down. I'm just going to work. I'm just going to go out there and play my game. And Ghost absolutely took it and ran. And he's one of the biggest like reasons I point to. And I'm like, hey, guys can just sign here and then control where they want to go like at the deadline.
Yep.
So it's like, hey, as long as he just goes out there and plays the way he did last year, I can see a first and a third. Like, if you just keep building on that, I don't even know if we have to retain. It depends on who he goes to. Probably still retain, just to maximize the value, but, like, just
1 year left.
on.
Yeah, 1 year left, you always retain. You're already paying that cap hit. It's not like you're, it's one thing to bring on, like, a bad cap hit, like a Castian or a Lad or something like that. Because you have to like kind of run that by the owner, like, hey, I'm adding more money that you're going to have to pay to the salary, but you're already paying that salary, taking on a 50% retained by trade deadline. You've already paid so much, the retainment essentially is just for the cap hit, not for the actual bucks that you're paying. Yeah, I think you retain on Ghost of Spare, and somebody will give you a first. I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. 50-point defenseman, when you retain, that's $2.75 million. Might be wrong on that. Whatever.
He's just below 5 million, right?
2.25. I don't know. I'm bad at math. Okay, so don't judge.
Don't judge this program. We're bad.
It's that Arizona education. But somebody will give you a first for that. So, and I'm not saying it's going to be a high first. I'm saying a late first, right? A Washington or somebody like that who's like, I'm close and I know that I can get deep. Actually, Washington kind of makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. But with that being said,
1-for-1 with Ovechkin, yes.
Yeah, there's a meme I saw where it was like, the Capitals get blown out 7-1, but Ovechkin scores, and it's like a dog humping.
I love that. I saw that as the greatest thing.
I was like, damn, that's a good one.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay. I know I said I'm making a list of last year UFAs, but you know what? This will be also asterisk people that will potentially be traded at the deadline. So screw off. It's my list. We have another guy who's got 2 years left. I don't know anything about him. I don't watch a lot of Eastern hockey. And that is Patrick Nemeth. He got traded over because of how bad statistically he was for the New York Rangers. And
want me to just save you the breath real quick, so you don't have to waste the time.
No,
He's here minimum 1 year, like minimum, because even if he has a decent season, no one's gonna want like the season and a half or whatever the math comes out to. That'll be someone that he'll take an entire year to reimagine his game, rebuild his game back up, and then get traded either off season or next year's deadline, or he's just here for the full 2 years.
Okay. All right. Well, since you blew the winds out of my sail with that one, this is a signing that we picked up at this offseason. There's another not signing, but a player getting signed that I want to rehash too. Now that I'm looking at this list, but this is a guy who got signed, who is Joshua Brown. Don't know too much about him. I believe he came from Boston, I want to say. He's on the Coyotes roster for $1.275 million for 2 years. 28 years old. Don't know anything about him. I'm not gonna lie.
He said 2 years. Oh yeah. It was the guy out of LA we signed for the 1 year. Honestly, same thing with Nemeth. It would be you're coming back here to either reestablish your game or just get consistent time, and then it's because teams love expiring contracts when they're going for playoff runs. So it's like they love rentals. So if he goes anywhere, it'll be next deadline, and if not, he'll be like Nemeth and be here both years.
Those three, I know I haven't said the third one yet, but I'm just gonna skip to my point because you guys know he just talked about the LA guy. But those three are the most fascinating off-season acquisitions that I am curious about because it helps insulate the defensemen in the AHL and keeping them from coming up, because that was one of the biggest problems. You want to talk about why the Roadrunners were so bad? The amount of flippin' defensemen that we cannibalized from that team last year was insane. Just consistently getting pulled up out of the the A, and that you want to talk about why they couldn't stop from getting scored on when your defensemen are constantly being jumbled up and down in the AHL or being pulled out into the NHL. Like, that is awful. And these three acquisitions will help insulate those AHL guys. But when I look at them, I don't see NHLers. I don't see everyday NHLers. So I am curious to see what Tournier can do with them. Luckily, they're all pretty young, so that's a positive sign. Like, you're not picking up 36-year-old defensemen that are like at the end of the ropes and they can't skate anymore. Like, these are all guys that can skate. And if you know much about defense, like, defense is fundamentals. Like, when you look at what makes you a normie defenseman versus like a star, that really comes with your ability to break out the puck. That comes with your ability in the offensive zone. That's where the stardom comes from. You can be a rock solid defenseman as long as you have a good coach that teaches you good fundamentals and keeps you every day that you're going to practice, like every morning, you're constantly being pounded in your head all of the fundamentals. Yeah. So I believe that, defensemen can absolutely change going team from team. As for these three, I don't know because I really don't know much about them.
I mean, I guess I just want to talk like 30 seconds real quick. I like insulating, NHL rosters. Like, you can create separation from the prospects. One thing is I like how, at least last year, we got some of the young kids up and got to see what they could do. But at the same time, it does make sense to, like, we're not Detroit where it's like we had players that could come up and we want to make sure they can't. It's like, hey, we're no rush if they need the full year in Tucson or at least like 40 games in Tucson before we would need to look at them. It's better to have that consistency and let them play in Tucson than just forcing them up here, because that also, like, the speed is different between the NHL and the AHL. It's a completely different level. So, like, if you're constantly going up and down, I could see how that would make you look even worse at the NHL level or make you go back to the A, and you're taking a foot, off the gas pedal because you're used to going faster. So you're like, hey, I can kind of pull back, which can also create bad habits. Or you're just like, this competition is below me, and then you start looking even worse at the AHL level, and then you ruin your NHL NHL shot the next year.
Yep. Agreed. Next on this list, I'm trying to speed run these because I know you had one more thing to talk about after this, and we'll finish up the podcast after that. I think we're doing good so far on this podcast. I'm not here to toot my own horn. I know if you're listening, you're going, why are they talking about what I'm talking about? Yeah, well, okay. We like to make sure that we're talking about cool stuff, okay? We don't want to fluff the airtime with nonsense like I'm doing now. Anyways,
I like talking about Assassin's Creed for 20 minutes when we started the podcast.
I don't know what you're talking about. There was no Assassin's Creed here. Move along. Okay. Anyway, so Troy Stecher is a guy who you talk about that came from the LA. I'll be honest, I forgot he was on LA. I only know him as a Vancouver defenseman. So, I know when he was on Vancouver because I got buddies who I play with. Well, used to play NHL with. I have now boycotted NHL after what they've done to me. I forgot that's a thing I could talk about for stuff that pissed me off last week between podcasts. But we're moving away. We're going to a non-EA based. I am now officially boycotting EA because of their BS. Anyways, so Troy Stecher, 1 year, kind of a, hey, I need somewhere to go, and hell, might as well experience my life. After living in LA, I can move to Arizona. So back to back, taking the high road, taking a good place to live. LA was trying to be better. I think they were better, but they're still not like a contender. And Arizona's definitely not a contender. So
you say it when they win the cup this year, and you're gonna look at me cross-eyed.
I will unironically look at you cross-eyed. Yes.
But Stecher, he's gone at the deadline. I think he's someone that you take some pressure off of him, because if you're signing with the Coyotes right now, it's because you need more ice time. You probably need to get a little pressure off you. Could be because you want to be in a smaller market, a little less pressure. So like I think he probably just does what he needs to do to become a seventh defenseman on any other team. And the Coyotes are like, well, like for a seventh D man on a playoff push, you can probably talk your way up to like a fourth maybe. So it's like, hey, we'll take a free asset.
Yeah, agreed. Nothing else to say there. So I'm going to talk about the final two, which are very, very minor. Don't see anything really being made of them, and I don't really see them being moved. But we have Cam Dineen. I'm just going to do both. Cam Dineen, 24 years of age, at league minimum $750,000. We also have a guy who we only got to see for 11 games, which is Connor Timmins, who was injured by a hit from Radko Gudas. Gudas is a monster, so I can imagine why you get injured by that man. At $850,000 at 23 years of age. I don't really see much out of them. I don't see trade deadline assets, just players to keep the AHL from being burdened with the tax load.
I actually disagree. Well, like, for Cam Dineen, I see him as being like you need to have consistency. I think Hudson Fashing also left the captain. It's funny. They'll name a captain towards the end of a season, Dakota Mermis, and then they're gone literally that off season. So the captaincy is the kiss of death in Tucson.
Well, Cunningham too, right? Cunningham got named captain, and then shortly after that has medical emergency, right?
So it's like the C it should be a K for Kiss of Death in Tucson. Maybe we should just go with the KHL. I think they have the K on it, or I could have just saw Photoshop and I'm an idiot. But with Cam Dineen, I think that's someone you need some consistency in the AHL. Oh, if we get some injuries, we can call him up first to the NHL. I see that as probably being the only real use, because I'm like, I don't know why else you'd sign him.
Keep Soderstrom from playing in the AHL.
Yeah, because he needs a full AHL term, because I'm like, he still has a lot to work on. He's gotten a little better, but he needs to get that offensive confidence back. Or in my opinion, I don't care how good he makes his defense, I'd rather have Soderstrom off the roster if he can't get that offense back, because like we have plenty of guys that can play defense well that are going to be coming up. Like, that's just the way I see it. I want that offense back. Not at the detriment, just I need it back. But like, I don't know why I got lost there for a second. Timmins, because that extra spot on the NHL roster is supposed to be his, and considering how he's a premium first round asset that we got, he's gonna play. He's gonna be at the NHL level. The problem is I can't get a read on him whatsoever. If he likes the market, if he wants to rebuild, if he wants to leave, if he's miserable here, if he loves it here, I can't get a read on any singular aspect of him, and he's either going to immediately crash out and burn this year, or he plays really well, and they're like, you know what? Maybe we should just try to like mulligan. Like, we'll admit this was probably the worst player like that we could have acquired in that Colorado deal, and we'll just like flip him and try again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with that trade, right, we got officially we got the trade return for it, which was Connor Timmins and Lamoureux. Obviously, we didn't pick Lamoureux with that pick, but it was involved in trade, blah, 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 you know. So, effectively, we traded Darcy for Lamoureux and Connor Timmins, which is funny because they're both defensemen.
Both right shots,
yeah, true. I think that the biggest concern for Connor Timmins for me is going to be his ability to stay healthy, obviously. I've looked at his AHL game. I've actually watched quite a bit of tape on him. I really like him as a defenseman. He definitely plays that he worked well with that Avalanche style of hold the puck, make a good first pass. I hope that he can play that well and stay healthy. As for him right now, he's just a big wild card. I don't think that he is like anti-Arizona or wanting to get the heck out. Like you're questioning, you were saying like, does he want to be here? I don't think so, because when you look at like their Instagram feed and stuff like that, I believe right now he is in Arizona training with the optional training group here. Obviously, nothing's required for you to have to train here in the off season, but there's always kind of a group of guys on every team that stay at the team location and train together and skate together. And I believe Connor Timmons is one of those guys. So that's good to see. Like that's something that you want to see. You want to see a guy who's like, yeah, I'll stay here. I'll take my off season here and work and bond with the guys, do whatever, go golfing and blah blah blah. Yeah, that's everybody. We have PTO for Dornov. I don't know how to say his name. Gregoire Dornov. I don't know. Defenseman. Obviously, we don't know. I'm not even gonna waste my time with that one. Okay, so real quick, and then I'll let you talk. I know we're already probably over the hour mark, but it's all right. It's the off season. It's the off season. I know you're desperate for Coyotes hockey. You're satiating at the mouth for these games to get played again, so that you can watch them get blown out. Anyway, so Dyson Mayo was a guy who I completely forgot about. We signed in the offseason, right? He was a guy who was, I believe, in RFA status, or maybe he was one of those like special UFAs. I don't remember. Dyson Mayo was a guy.
He got 3 years, didn't he?
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say real quick, because I was looking at these contracts and I forgot about this. We gave Dyson Mayo a 3-year contract at almost $1 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty damn good. Good for him. Good for him. Good for the team. I liked Mayo a lot. He reminded me so much. He had so much shades of Hammer, of Hjalmarsson. Just that the shades of Hjalmarsson were just eerie coming from Mayo. Not going to blow you away offensively. Not really going to take a shot from the blue line, but just really respectable defensively, and makes a solid pass. Good at, I think that something he could learn a little bit from Hjalmarsson is chipping the puck a little bit more, just like poking it into a corner, throwing it away, learning that a little bit more. But overall, I really like this game.
Yeah, no, it is also, I think I used him as an example to trash on how the Coyotes can't develop right shot defensemen, because the only guys that they've managed to develop, like they either traded for young or drafted, that managed to like get that next NHL contract were like Michael Stone, Connor Murphy, and Dyson Mayo. Yeah, I think they were all. I think at some point all three were supposed to be offensive defensemen, because I'm pretty sure I remember like when Mayo was first in the A, he was supposed to be offensive. Which if you change your game to defensive and you do it well, I'm completely okay with that. We could right shot, defensive defenseman. I will take that any day of the week. But it's like Connor Murphy was supposed to be and ends up being one of the better defensive defensemen on Chicago. Michael Stone. So,
great shot, never hits the net. Always
hits the glass.
Yeah, I remember
they changed it to plexiglass.
Yeah, I remember that joke. Even when he was on the Coyotes, he's still not signed yet. By the way, I don't think.
He says he want to come home to Arizona.
No. oh, graciously.
Him and Brandon Gormley. That'll be our first pair. Oh my God, think about it. Gorm's is still a UFA, but man, he's like what, 27, 28? Give him a 7-year contract.
No. Gosh, don't give me PTSD. All right,
Mark Byzantine.
That's pretty much that's pretty much it on this list. I know this is a elongated list of nonsense, but I think it was pretty good. Pretty good.
You just wanted to say elongated. You just wanted to talk about how something was long. I get it.
You're a dirty mind. All right, I'm gonna let you go into. This is going to be Matt's rant corner.
Corner.
So I'm gonna let you rant away, Mr. Wait. Sorry, I'm gonna beg and then you can rant. So I'm gonna beg real quick here, which is going to be, do the things, do all the things, do them quickly now. Do you see the FBI agent behind you? Click on the click a like, click the sub. Okay, good enough.
I don't know, man. Anyway, so there's one concern that I've had, because obviously We're content creators. We're going to speculate. Things are interesting to talk about. But one thing I've noticed whenever we talk about a lot of stuff, especially that that trade we brought up last week. Actually, I want to right now look at the results because they were severely disappointing, and nothing against the person that commented. I think they seem like they're pretty decent, and we have conversations pretty good about on Twitter. But the problem is like the mindset that I keep seeing. So
you're talking about the overall arching feeling for Coyotes fans.
Over thing, not just like I understand the logic, but I also I want to present my case. So we talk context. We're talking about how we lost out on both Kachucks by like 1 or 2 slots both years, and it ended up being Keller and Hayton. So I'm like, right now, would you make this trade? It doesn't matter who they're going to, but it's Keller and Hayton for Matthew and Brady Tkachuk, and to me, that's a no-brainer. Everyone seeing this should say yes, because from a talent perspective, just from how much that would elevate your team, whether they're a basement dweller or a cup contender, those two on your team, they make you better. So the whole point of asking that was, man, we missed out on these 2 guys, like just to show how much better those assets could have gone. Would you make that trade? And it's supposed to be in a vacuum. And the response was, no, we want Connor Bedard. The total for 31 votes, it's 42% no, 42% yes. And then you had 13% hell yeah, 3% of course, because of course I had to throw in a couple meme options. But the fact that it's so split, it's so... The amount of comments of saying, oh, we want Bedard, we need to lose, we don't want to get better, like the Nazem Kadri thing. Hey, would it make sense to sign him to a 1 year and then try to flip him at the deadline for assets? We want more assets. No, we want Bedard. We want the extra couple of wins. I'm like, that makes sense. I get it. Just if they were going to finish with 30 wins, right? You don't want them to finish with 34 wins because one player elevated them that much, those close games, and you went from competing for number 1 and you dropped to 6. So I understand the basic logic, but the problem with it is you can't just keep cultivating we want to lose constantly because we want this specific guy. Because when has that ever worked out for the Coyotes? I understand last year's a bit of an anomaly, but the goal all year was Shane Wright. It didn't become Cooley until the Coyotes went on that little win streak. It was 4, 5, 6 games. I think they started March out pretty hot, but they didn't start transitioning it to we're going for Cooley until after that. Was it the 07 draft? I think it was Patty Kane's draft. We didn't get Kane. We ended up getting Turris. And I know that Turris trade tree, we ended up getting Connor Geeky. We got Anton Vermette. We got some pretty good assets out of the Turris trade tree. Yeah. But, if we were focused on Kane or nothing, what we ended up getting was not good enough. And why not, make a couple little additions, little things to try to flip them for more assets, because some of these guys will bust out. I think that was a really good point someone brought up on Twitter. It's that's why we're still at least one more core piece away from having the core ready, that core group of guys on the roster.
Yeah,
completely agree. But isn't that also why you'd want more assets? I will take for the first round for the next 3 years, the Coyotes having 3 to 5 first rounders, and most of them being mediocre low first rounders. You get packaged to go back up. Hey, we like this guy. He's falling a little bit. Let's try to go. Let's take 27 and 17 and move up to 11. Move up to 10. Whoever you want. This guy's falling. We want to get this guy. I'd rather have the ability to get that. And on top of that, if you don't, hey, now you have 17 and 27 overall to pick. That's 2 first-round assets you're bringing in, as long as you're confident in your scouting and your player development, which hopefully with Lee Stempniak getting promoted to that should help. Just should show they're trying to improve that aspect of player development. It's just, I look at that, I'm like, the more assets, the better. I know I'll bring up gambling, for a couple seconds. Would you rather have 10 spins, but the overall jackpot is $800K, or would you rather have 3 spins and the jackpot's $15 million? I'm I'd rather have more chance to get something decent, something good, than, I can flip it 3 times, and if I lose all 3 times, I walk away with nothing. But that $18 million looked good. So it's go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that you are onto something, and it's something that I get into the mindset. It's gambling's a perfect example of this. is you go, I want the biggest number, I want the biggest jackpot, which statistically is worse, right? Statistically is worse. We want Connor Bedard. You finish last overall, you still only have, what, a 20% chance of getting him? 20, right? That is a fraction of half. Math, how does it work? Anyways, continue. Like, I'm just saying, like, it is minute. That's all.
So that's why, like, for me, I'm just going to say it now. And, like, look, you guys can keep hoping. If we get him, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to make sure I am very clear. If we get Connor Bedard, I will be happy. We are not getting Connor Bedard. I am not laser focused on Connor Bedard. What I'm laser focused on is what moves can we make to get flip free assets. You have a guy, a top 6 role. He's not going to be here in 2 years, but we can use that now, increase his value, flip him. That's more prospects coming in a year.
Yep.
I'd rather focus on that so we have as many, what I forget what it is, like little like he. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's in there
So,
at the machine. I just forget what it's called.
Yeah, you're spinning the wheel, you're pulling the lever.
Thank you.
Well, another thing I want to point on too is, like, when you're talking about the value of how deep our draft team is, like the scouts and everything, and everybody who puts their time and effort into this team to draft. Would you rather have a guy, like, let's say you're at 4th overall, 3rd overall, and I think that Logan Cooley was a bit of a lock-in for the Coyotes. It was a pretty easy one for them to lock in hindsight now. But, let's say at next year's draft or whatever, and you're finishing 3rd overall again. Well, actually, next year's draft is pretty much a lock-in too. But let's say there's a draft. Sorry, I'm projecting here. I think that
there's a theoretical draft.
Yeah, the 3 next year's draft are pretty much a lock-in, like they were. Well, actually, this year's draft wasn't lock-in either because the 1st overall went to 4th. Let's just say there's a draft where it isn't guaranteed that you know who 1, 2, and 3 are. The thing is that you sit at those high echelon and you go, I don't really know we're going to get and who's going to be the best. But at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, those are players that you can find that you go, this guy was number 3 on our list. He dropped to here. And using those assets that you collect, the more spins, you can move up with those spins. You can trade in a few spins and go, I believe that I'm going to hit on this player. And we're already seeing that now with the Coyotes. You don't believe me? Go look at how Dylan Guenther's doing, right? He was drafted 9th overall. That was a guy who we moved up to get. Obviously, we didn't trade anything from behind because that was the year that we did not have a pick. But we moved in to go and grab him, and we believed him to be a top, at least 4 asset? They were like, yeah, we had him like at 4 on our list, and they moved in and sniped him and took him. I would rather a team do that and see a guy that they feel is dropping on their list that they want to snipe. Like, I don't know if I feel like Connor Geekie kind of got drafted where he was. I don't think I really heard anything from them saying, oh, he was like 5 on our list. He was 5 or 6 on my list because he's a big body. That's beside the point. I'm not going to go super deep into that. But I'd rather a team do that where they go, this is a great player. This is 3 or 4 on our list. Let's hop into 10 or 11 and grab him. That's really important to me. That's really good to see because that's how you get those. What was everybody thinking? Why did they pass up onto this guy? Why did Elias Pettersson go 7th overall in that draft? Why did Cale Makar go 4th? Right? Those players, it's because you have the conviction from your scouts that go, this is our guy. This is who we believe in. And that's where you're going to make the differences, not just praying and hoping that a Connor Bedard, it lands on your doorstep.
And then on top of that, it comes down to culture as well. Like, look, I know we're in a rebuild. I'm not expecting a cup. I'm not expecting playoffs. I like memeing. I also think with these young rosters, I'll say it before, I'll say it again. When they boom, they can just take off. That does not mean that will happen, but I'm just saying with little strides I've seen with some of the roster makeups, even with some of the guys in the AHL, if they boom, like they're gonna command an NHL spot, and that could force this team within a second wild card hunt. Doesn't mean they're going there. Doesn't mean that's my prediction, but even last year, the Misfit Group, you saw it in Vegas. I've seen these things happen. It's not the most uncommon thing possible. I know we're in a rebuild. You don't get Nazem Kadri on a 7-year contract for a rebuilding team. You don't get, let's say Joe Thornton was a little younger. You don't get Joe Thornton on a 3-5-year contract when, you're rebuilding.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like
these
a
guys
veteran.
On a short-term contract. Hey, we can offer you a roster spot, we can offer you more minutes, and then we can trade you later to a team that can compete right now. It's like, yes, it will translate to a couple additional wins that you would like to not have because you want your best odds at number one, but you also need improvement. They had 25 wins last year. In my opinion, you need at least 28 this year. You need to improve year over year, even when you're rebuilding, and also continue, as BA's done, to generate the maximum amount of assets you possibly can and to use them as efficiently as possible. Because I'll just use Geeky as an example, since he seems to be like one of the more controversial picks. Let's say Geeky he busts out. He never plays an NHL game. Let's say he plays 6 AHL games and just never makes it, just for the sake of argument. All right, well, your next year's asset, you have 2 or 3 more spins. Well, what are the odds that all 3 of those players also bust out? The next year, you have another 2 or 3. What are the odds those guys also just bust out? It's just the more you can give yourself the opportunity. You can have Geeky, you can have whoever else in the system be massive bust, and it's like, oh, it looks kind of bad. But if you hit on Cooley, Lamoureux, Gunther, I have no idea why that took me a second, and let's just say Bedard. Let's just say we get him, right? If you hit on those 4, who cares that you missed on Geeky? But if you don't have the Lamoureux and the Bedard, now it's just, okay, well, you've missed on 50% of them. You missed on Geeky, it means a lot more.
Yeah. It's so funny looking at numbers. It's so curious. So there's like multiple numbers here that we need to pay attention to. First of all is finishing 5th and finishing 1st. Like statistically there's not like a massive difference. Well, there is a difference, don't get me wrong. But like you can get the first overall pick still even if you finish 5th in the league. And that is crazy. This is like one of those leagues that is absolutely insane like that. And if you're going to roll the number, just roll it there. But then you have the better compounding number, which is like trust in the drafters, trust in your scouts. And when you have more of those picks, you have all those seconds, you have everything. You can move up, you can move down, you can do whatever. Like, that is so important statistically. Like, okay, let's just say, for hyperbole's sake, first overall is Connor McDavid, right? Would you rather have one Connor McDavid, and that's it on your team? Or would you rather have 3 Sebastian Ahos? Right?
Is there any additional context, or is this just in a bubble?
Oh, so, like in a bubble, right? Like, would you rather take the volume of good players or one really good player? Just to give context.
Well, if we're talking, like, and I know the outcome, like, I know it's a franchise generational McDavid, like, then you have to pick McDavid, but just in general, if you have 3 Sebastian Ahos, theoretically, you can even trade one of them and further improve the rest of your core. Oh, hey, we're going downhill. Trade 2 of them. Here's a massive draft haul that can help jumpstart the next rebuild. Like, no matter where you're going, up, down, middling, that gives you so many more options. If you have Connor McDavid, you have to build around Connor McDavid. Or you have to trade him for the biggest draft package in league history. And there is no in-between. Like, even when Washington kept failing in the playoffs, there has to be a reason why they never gave up on Ovi. Because you either get the biggest haul ever, or you're like, no, we are going to continue to work. We're going to continue to try to build around this player. So it's like, you get way more versatility with 3 Sebastian Ahos. Yeah. And, your ceiling is lower. because Connor McDavid on any team from Edmonton to Arizona could win you 5 Stanley Cups in a row because of how damn good he is if you put the right team around him. He could also make you a perennial first-round exit and with not good enough draft assets to do anything because you have one first-round pick and it's like 20th. And so you're not going to get the cream of the crop and you only get one go at the slot machine.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm sure people are wondering where I'm getting this correlation from. Obviously, the higher you pick statistically, the more likely that player is to become an everyday NHLer. But why I'm saying, like, why we should gamble on our scouts, why it's important if you're going to make a difference, even if you're not getting first overall pick, you're not getting Connor McDavid, when you have 3, 4, 5 assets that are in the first 2 rounds, that is imperative, because the reason why I give Sebastian Aho as a pick there is because he was taken in the second round. That's a guy who dropped that everybody probably didn't look twice at. But, you know, there was a scout somewhere on Carolina that went, yeah, he's our guy. And I don't know how else to kind of tie the bow off on this, just saying it is so important to not ignore those deeper assets. It is so important. Those first and second round assets, if you have a ton of them, the net is big enough, you're going to find the golden fish, okay? And that golden fish, if he's your first line center and he's picked in the second round, that's a damn good pick. Anyways, I think that's kind of it. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
I just really wanted to just go home that you also need to improve. Yes, we are expected to lose. That does not mean we make a Taylor Hall trade right now. All right? That does not mean we make a Phil Kessel trade right now. You are completely 120% correct. You do not make a move that you think puts you into the playoffs. You do not make a move that you think is going to put you near the playoffs. The moves you need to make are the moves that you think will get you more assets to make you overall better in the grand scheme, and also to help players around develop. Because let's just say, take of argument, we got Kadri, right? He's playing on the first line with Keller. Schmaltz goes down a line. Well, now Schmaltz, potentially, because he's a first-line winger, top 6 most of the league, but first line here, he can elevate McBain. He can elevate Smith. You have a better talent on your side. You can also help to elevate Clayton Keller, so that whenever he's gone to deadline, you have 2 assets that Keller's playing better, McBain, Smith, that's 3, maybe 4. Schmaltz probably playing just as well. Guys that are now worth even more. So let's just say McBain and Smith walk in, I want to be here, screw Arizona. Well, now they're both 20-goal scorers, and you can turn that into good assets that you could just help to make the team better later. Or, hey, they want to stay here, we're seeing what's building here, we want to sign long-term. Now you've just locked up even more higher-quality assets to build in the future. You win 30 games this year. Let's just say 25 last year, 30 this year. That, to me, that's a pretty good step forward. 28's the minimum. Okay? You're not pushing yourself from 3rd overall to 15th with 5 more wins. So, why not cheer to watch that growth while also still being where you need to be in rebuild range?
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's my concern. I get it. I understand wanting Bedard. I understand. The problem is the statistical likelihood of Arizona ever getting first overall is astronomically low. The Phoenix Suns got first overall for the first time in, 50 some odd seasons of being here? 55?
Like
1967 or 8 was their first year here?
Question, Matt.
Yes.
Who's their best player? The Suns?
Right now? Oh, Devin Booker? Not even the first overall selection.
Where was he picked?
Wasn't it
top 10?
like 11th overall or something? It was still in the first round.
Yeah.
Please correct me and don't yell at me.
I think I want to say it was like 7 or 8, but maybe I'm wrong. But like Devin Booker, I know it's different sports. Shut up. You know what? You get the comparable. Devin Booker's like one of the best players in the league. He is up there at least. Make that you can't deny that fact. And he wasn't the first overall pick. The first overall pick that they did pick is very controversial right now in name that they may be trading him. Now, it sounds like they've solidified that and that they're not going to. But I'm just saying, first overall pick does not always mean best player on your team. We look back at this 5 years from now, and the Coyotes are hoisting the cup, and Logan Cooley's your first-line center, and Connor Bedard didn't end up turning out to be the best player. Now, I know statistically it looks like Connor Bedard's definitely going to be a franchise player. I'm not denying that fact, but I'm just saying it could happen. It very well could happen. We watched Shane Wright drop to 4th overall. He was number 1 for the longest time in that draft. And sometimes players don't end up making their way into that 1st overall. Go back and we can just go a few years back to that Cale Makar draft with, what was it? I believe Nico Hischier, Nolan Patrick. I don't even know who 3 was. Who's the best player in that draft? Number 4, Cale Makar. Okay? So, don't always get your hopes up for the 1st overall pick. I think that is the lesson for today.
Mm-hmm. And it's just also, like, you can want your team to win and succeed during a rebuild and not, like, destroy the rebuild.
Yep.
Like, same thing, like, right now, let's just say tomorrow, Barrett Hayton and Clayton Keller, part of a 3-team trade, so that way both Kachucks come here, all right?
Yep.
That could do one of 2 things. Either stall out the rebuild and make it take longer, or destroy it. Completely agree there. But, at the same time, if you're given that offer, you still have to take that gamble, take that chance, because it's just how much better those assets are than what you have.
Yeah, and I'll give a projection for next year's draft. So just just so that we can make it very, very clear about what Matt's talking about. You improve maybe 3 extra wins. You go from being second. I'm just using pure statistics. I'm not going to put the lottery into it. We finished second last. This year we finished third last because we get a couple extra wins. We finished third in the draft. There's no lottery. Loxton, we're at 3 this year, right? Statistically, I know there's going to be movement, blah, blah, blah. Let's use this for example. At number 3, sorry, I didn't mean to bump my mic there. At number 3 is still Adam Fantilli, okay? You want a name to watch. That is a damn good consolation prize, okay? Next year's draft is going to be Connor Bedard. Oh, God, I always forget how to say the Russian. There's so many Russian names that sound familiar to me. Is it Matvey Michkov? I believe is his name. Obviously, there's big controversies about Russian players, so he may not stay at 2. But when you're looking at pure skill on that list for next year's draft, it's Bedard, Michkov, Fantilli. Fantilli looks fantastic, okay? So, I'm just saying, what Matt's saying, improve a couple of wins, make the team a little bit better. Let's say they still lose a lot, but every game's a lot tighter. It's a 1-goal loss, okay? That is improvement. That is important, even for a bad team. That is something that is important to note, right? Like, if you're losing games 1 goal, keeping it close, that is damn good for a losing team. And it ends up being, all of a sudden, Bedard, Michkov, Fantilli, and Fantilli is your guaranteed first-line center as well.
Imagine a top 6 of having Fantilli and Cooley. It's like, that's what we're trying to communicate. It's like, yes, you don't make the big trade to push for a playoff spot now. That would be stupid. The only reason you would take the Kachucks for Keller and Hayton is because the ridiculous amount of value you're getting back. It would be stupid to not take it regardless of where your team is at. That's never going to happen. That was never a real trade. That was just literally like, because of how much better those 2 assets are, as much as I love Keller, you take that. That's it.
Yep.
And if you can grab a vet and flip them at the deadline, you do that. So that way you can have more assets.
Yep.
Because even if all of our picks are between 7th and 27th, but we have 4 selections, I'm feeling pretty confident going into that draft regardless.
Yep. Let's say you pick up 2 vets. All right. These 2 vets, just to use basic numbers here, guarantee you like 5 extra wins, which moves you from third worst to like 7th worst. Okay? If you're picking at 7 because of those vets, but those vets you also flipped at the deadline, and one of them's a late first, and the other two, and the other one gets you 2 seconds. Okay? We'll say like mid seconds. Okay? All of a sudden you went from, damn, we're not picking third overall, to now we have a 7th, a 24, and like a 40 and a 50. Okay? Like, you go from having 1 asset at third overall to like 4 assets, and potentially even trading up to even higher. Okay? Like, let's say you take on, you decide to make the trade that we did, right? Where, what was it, 3 seconds to get Geeky? Was it 3 seconds that we moved?
I thought it was 2 seconds.
Was it 2
seconds?
seconds?
Real quick if you
Okay.
like.
Yeah, so anyways, but let's just, I'm just going to make up a fictional trade. Don't worry about it. So let's say we move a first and a second, and we get 11th overall. So now we have 7, 11, and one of the seconds, so like a 50. And we've got our own second. So we now have 2 seconds, a 7th and 11th, from just picking up 2 veterans. 2 veterans that you flipped at the deadline. You now are picking 7, 11, and, whatever the math is on that, 38. I'm just going to throw up freaking numbers. All right, 38 and 52, right? Like, that is damn good for just picking up 2 veterans that guaranteed you 7 extra wins or whatever. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, just big picture. I understand it. Try not to get too narrow-minded or the tunnel vision, whatever you want to use for it. It happens to me a lot. Guarantee it happens to Richie. It happens to all of us. It's a very human thing. You're so determined on one thing, but it also can make it harder to cope if you don't get that thing. It can also lead to how many times have you seen guys get booed at drafts? Have you seen fan bases get like super mad? Like that Philly, they take Nemec, and how many, like, a couple videos came out of like draft parties and people were mad they didn't take Shane Wright. It's like you can avoid a lot of that if it's like, just keep your expectations as realistic as possible, and like, hey, I want improvement. I want a better hockey team, instead of like, yeah, it's nice to want Bedard, but if you only want Bedard, what's the statistical likelihood you get that? Whereas if your goal is more of that long-term goal of, I want a better team, not only is it much more obtainable, but you have more ways of getting that.
Yep.
That's it. That's all I got. I just...
Yep. No, I think
conversation there.
I think that was a great conversation. I'm going to quickly run down why I'm boycotting EA, and then we'll end the podcast.
I want to get to that, actually.
Okay, so why I'm boycotting EA. Okay, so I have been a loyal peon of EA for a very, very, very long time. I want to say, yeah, not based. I think I've been a fan of Electronic Arts since PS1, 2, somewhere in there. Okay. I guaranteed have purchased every single EA NHL game since 2006. Guaranteed. I know that for a fact. Okay. I have purchased all the Battlefields. I've purchased so much EA content. All right. I was even in one of the beta programs where I even was playing beta, like, game modes that never made it to light with the Battlefield franchises. Okay, that's because when I participate in betas, when they send the user feedback, I actually take the time and type out paragraphs because I'm a loser. But I like to see games succeed, so I like to give my 2 cents. Because I did that a lot, they stuck me into a program where I could test stuff out that never made it to the limelight. Or to the light of day, I should say, not limelight. I have consistently supported this place, even as it's continued to go downhill, as the microtransactions have gotten worse, as the content has gotten worse, as games and franchises that I love turn to absolute garbage, like Battlefield 2042, which is so bad that when you fire at somebody, that your bullets go through them instead of hitting them. That is how garbage that game was. And I refuse to even try to go back to it. I know people are like, oh, but they updated it. It's better. I played through Battlefield 4. I played through the buggy garbage that Battlefield 4 started out with. I still was willing to play through that garbage, even though I saw all of its flaws. These games are just consistently getting worse and worse, and it is a AAA studio for video games. I have tried my best to suck it up, deal with it, post-pandemic, make excuses, and the NHL beta comes out. NHL 23 beta comes out. Okay. I have been a loyal follower of this damn studio for so freaking long. And I send in my name, put my name into the hat, right? All right, I would like to play the beta. I apply for it. I applied almost instantly. So they released that sheet or whatever that you put all your information in on Twitter, and I was on that crap instantly because I'm a loser that looks at Twitter way too much, and I don't get a code. Beta came around. I think it's still going on now. Don't get a code. It's a little weird. All of my friends who I sent the link to, I sent them I was like, hey, dummies, go sign up for this so that we can play together in the beta. All of them get codes, except for me. That's a little weird. So I go to support because I feel like something's wrong here. I send in a ticket, go, hey, just by the way, didn't get a code. Would it be okay if I got a code? Last year, NHL 22, same thing happened to me. Support sends me back an email instantaneously, probably 8 hours later, going, hey, sorry about that. Here's your code. Bada bing, bada boom. In. Super easy. This time I was like, kind of weird. Okay, maybe my account's bugged or something. Send a message. Hey, didn't get a code. Day goes by. Get an email back from them. I have now 24 hours invested into this nonsense. They sent me an email saying, hey, no problem, but can I please have your email address? They sent me an email asking for my email address. Okay, I see we're playing with a special kind of stupid here. So I send them my email. I made sure I wasn't going to waste some time because remember, the beta only goes on for like a week or whatever. And I've already invested 24 hours into this stupid response. So I sent them all my information. I'm like, here's my name. Here's my PlayStation name. Here's my email. Here's my account. Here's all my EA stuff. You got everything. Give me the goddamn code.
Pulse.
Another 24 hours goes by. So we're now 48 hours invested into this. I get an email back. Hey, thanks for all the information. Looks like your account isn't verified. I'm going to send you a verification email. Can you please verify your email? My account is literally 10 years old. I have been beta testing for this goddamn company for years. What do you mean my account isn't verified? Didn't receive that email, by the way, that they said they were going to send to verify my email. Go figure. This is where I'm a little ticked off. I'm like, are you serious? You can't look up my information and see all the beta testing that I've done for you guys for all the garbage that you've never put out? A little frustrated. Sent him a message saying, I'm very disappointed that you've now wasted 48 hours of my time. And you've told me, you sent me an email asking for my email address, and now you've told me that my email isn't verified for an account that I've had for literally over 10 years. I looked up because you can look up the account history. Created the account in January 3rd, Yeah, January 3rd of 2012. Literally 10 years old. So I sent a message saying, hey, I am a little frustrated here. You guys are sending me through loops that are absolutely non sequiturs. And I literally have an account ticket from last year when you guys didn't send me a code, where you guys instantly sent me a code. Can I please just get into the damn technical test? Okay? Can we stop playing these nonsensical games? Get a message back. Another day later, of course. So now I am 3 days into this debacle. And I get a message saying, I am so and so. Thank you so much for your time. I am too a gamer, whatever that means. Next paragraph. Technical test is not guaranteed. This does not guarantee that you will be entered into technical tests. I wasted 3 days of my time for them to tell me F off. If I wasn't guaranteed a code, why didn't you send me an email saying, sorry, you didn't make it? Like every other normal studio. You are a AAA title. You are one of the apex predators of game studios. And you couldn't even send me an email that said, sorry, you didn't make it this time. Better luck next time. I got nothing from them. So, I am at the breaking point with this company. And I'm done with them. I am not going to participate in supporting EA anymore. I have uninstalled everything off of all my platforms, including my PlayStation and my computer. Origin is gone. Apex Legends is gone. I am done with EA and all of its constituents. And I highly recommend that you boycott them too, because this company is garbage. They continuously stomp on their customers and squeeze the money out of our bodies until there's nothing left, and they don't care. So anyways, that's my story. And I hope that my eccentric storytelling really rustled your jimmies and you two will boycott them.
I mean, I could think of dozens of reasons to boycott EA. Primarily because they're a super predatory company. The whole Battlefront 2 debacle. Battlefield 4, how it released was unacceptable.
Yep.
But it's like, okay, we're kind of going
New
from
engine.
like more proprietary hardware to like the new consoles are basically just like PCs but not as strong. It's like maybe there's just something going on, whatever.
Yeah.
But then you get like 2042, and
Yep.
it's like, oh hey, it's online only, so you officially have a $60 to $70 brick, because as soon as I shut down the servers, the game
Yep.
you paid for is now worthless, and for whatever reason, people don't listen to me when I talk about stuff like that. I called it was going to launch terrible too,
Yep.
and then it's like...
They had 4 studios working on that game. They had 300 employees working on that game.
But they had to get it out at this specific date instead of letting it cook for another year to actually give the customers a solid experience. So that's why, for me personally, even if I'm not going to boycott EA like as a whole, because I'm like, I'll just buy the couple of games I like. I usually wait for discounts. Biggest thing, wait for discounts because they get way less of your money.
Yep.
Number 2, never pre-order. Unless you're a weird shill like me, I'll pre-order Sonic Frontiers because I'm a weirdo. Nothing. I don't pre-order anything else though until it's like a week before the game comes out, and I usually embargoes have lifted. I can see reviews. I can see, you know, if it's going to be a dud, or if it's like maybe this is like Cyberpunk 2077. I still love that game. Loved it when it came out. I didn't run into almost any of the problems everyone else ran into. I made sure to wait until like I didn't pay for it until we got right up there. I refunded it out of principle because of how much problems everyone else is having, and then I think my wife bought it for me again like a month later so I could finish it. But like, always wait as long as possible. Wait for sales. The amount of games I have installed on this Xbox over here, total since 2013 when I got the PS4, or 2014 got my PS4. and then like 2018 when I got my Xbox One, I probably have like 600 games because I just wait for sales. Oh hey, 2K is $5. I'll play 2K18 for the next 3 years. Oh, this game is $3. I haven't got around to playing it yet, but hey, I sure as hell locked it down for a much better price. So it's like, if you have a lot of these issues, these companies, don't pre-order. It makes them very uncomfortable when you don't pre-order. Wait until the game's getting ready to come out. You can see more footage. Find content creators you trust, that you actually trust their opinion. If there's demos, and if you're someone that really likes demos, email them that you didn't buy a game because they didn't have any sort of demo or trial, so that way they know, hey, people are actually not buying it because of this. It's the only way you can get a real message to corporations. You need to associate the lack of money with the reasoning, and if enough people email that, then you'll see a change, but you need enough people to. All these things, watch out as much as possible, especially with the modern, terrible AAA industry where it's like, other than like Cyberpunk and Halo Infinite, which I still haven't beat, I just ran around for a couple hours, I don't know how many like big games I've bought like recently. It's mostly been like, I bought Pac-Man World Repack. That's pretty fun so far. I bought like the Tasmanian Tiger remakes. Like, a couple of smaller games. Most of the games that I don't mind taking the risk on are like less than $50, 40 or under. So it's like, do that to show them, hey, this $70. They had EA is one of the companies, along with Sony, that has the absolute testicular fortitude to jack up the price. Yet the overall quality has been consistently going down. At least the length of the 8th generation going into this 9th generation. Cover your own butt as much as possible, because a lot of what Richie said, even if you have a couple criticisms with like, oh well, it's a beta, you're not entitled to it. Sure, whatever, I'll acknowledge that. But all the other issues he brought up, all the other, like, ripping off consumers, you didn't used to have cosmetic shops. I remember back in the day, you just, hey, I'm playing the game, and I can go into, like, a GTA, like, actual store inside the game and buy new outfits for CJ. Like, I'm that old.
I think it is fair to put in a cosmetic shop where you have to pay for the cosmetics if the game is free. If the game is free,
that's a completely different story. Yeah,
I'm willing to concede that point 100%. Good example, Halo Guardians, I think it is Halo, the newest Halo, free, cosmetic shop. Yeah, multiplayer only. I paid for the cosmetic shop. I like Halo. I enjoy it. Free, paid $10 for some cosmetic. That's all I'm probably gonna put into it, but they get my money for that. I'll support that, like the franchise. I enjoyed the gameplay. Gameplay was fun, and I'll toss a few coins into that well if you deserve it. You don't get my money when you make me spend $70 on a new game, on an online only game like Matt's talking about, and you have to pay to move along in the story progression or whatever the hell you want to do microtransaction wise, which is just completely unreal. It is ridiculous.
Just cover your butts, and the more people see it and say, hey, like, I'm trying to think of a game right now. Top of my head, I wanted to play Black Ops Cold War, but I'm like, I'm not paying $60 for it. They also have this weird thing where they call it a cross-gen bundle because they want you to pay the upcharge for the next-gen version. I'm like, I'll just wait. I think I got it on sale for like $30 or $40. It was somewhere in there. I bought the Xbox One edition, so I didn't have to be forced to install it on my SSD, because the SSD is super expensive storage, proprietary storage for Microsoft, and I think Sony, you can put any M.2 drive, so at least they're a little more pro-consumer on that. So it's like, just bought the Xbox One version. I waited for a sale. I loved the zombies. Haven't played the story yet, because apparently I was hearing that like it was crashing consoles because there was like some really bad code, so it would cause like a glitch that could cause your console itself to shut off, and I think some people had to reinstall their operating system. It's happened in a couple other games too, like the PS4 era, so it's like, I know it's uncommon, but it's still like, I saw that, I'm like, you know what, for Call of Duty story, sorry Ronald Reagan, I'll pull back for a month or two, and then it's been 2 years.
That doesn't scare me. I watched my 360 Red Ring of Death itself because of the glitch in GTA 4, okay? I'm a madman.
Dude, I had like it was before the Elite. It was still like the base model, but it was the one that was like redone with the cooling system. I had that from 2008 to when I traded it in like 2014 because I was upgrading to the new consoles. Yeah. Never had it red ring, but once I like noticed it was putting a little ring on my discs. I don't know, like I'd take a brand new disc just fine. Anyone that I've been playing for a period of time, even like Halo 4, which is pretty recent at that time, like why is there this little laser burn here? What the F, man?
Yep.
That was enough of what's going on here for me.
Yep. All right. I think that's enough of our nerd talk. I'm sure all of you are gone by now. You're like, I don't want to listen to these two nerds talk about nerd things. But if you're still
Stop
here,
playing video games and go get some women, nerds. We're probably a bunch of virgins.
Lucky for you. We're both married. Ha. Anyway, so are you married?
Tax purposes.
Tax purposes. Gotcha.
That, I shouldn't make that joke. The IRS is getting a little more angry now.
FBI, open up. Anyways, so let's call it quits. This episode has been probably our longest episode because we're dumb. Okay.
We're psychopathic.
We're psychopathic.
Like, comment, favorite, subscribe.
Yeah. Do all the
hide
fun.
a noodle in the comments because she's hiding under the chair or the couch for some reason.
Yeah, it's just having a good time. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. We will be back next week. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.